Hey travelers, Mag and I here on day 258 of our trip around the United States. We made it into Collinsville last night and were able to socialize with the other geocachers at that event, and it turned out to be a pretty good time. But now we need to finish the remaining part of the route that we had on our schedule for yesterday. We are taking on what we have left of that 290 miles, moving our way through Pawhuska and through Barnsdall, continuing east to the end of the state. This will mark the end of one leg of our journey as we finish up in the state of Oklahoma, and mark the beginning of another leg of our journey as we begin to sink our teeth into Missouri. We are going to push just a little further beyond our planned route for the day to get ourselves into Joplin and Webb City. Hopefully, we'll still make it there with some time to spare on our side so we can get to those admin tasks that we shunted to the side yesterday. But either way, we will not be continuing past the city once we get there. I can't wait to see what today has in store, and I hope we end up with a little time to spare. So let's get out there and make it happen. Come on, let's go.
Our morning begins in Pawhuska, the county seat of Osage County, with a population of about 3,000 people. Originally known as Deep Ford, Pawhuska was established in 1872 with the reservation of the Osage Nation, part of the Indian Territory. It was named after the Osage chief of a similar name, which means white hair in English. The Osage tribal government, which opened its doors in 1872 with the establishment of the territory, continues to be based right here out of Pawhuska. The Osage were once one of the Midwestern American tribes to be found along the Great Plains between Ohio and the Mississippi rivers, dating all the way back to 700 BC. It was not until well into the 17th century, in the aftermath of the Beaver Wars, following Iroquois expansion into Ohio country, that the tribe migrated into the area, settling near the confluence of the Missouri and Mississippi rivers. By the turning of the 9th century, the Osage had become the dominant power in the region, feared by all other neighboring tribes. They had complete control of the area between the Missouri and Red River, the Ozarks to the east, and the foothills of the Wichita Mountains to the south. Like so many other tribes, they were forced to move from their homelands into what is present-day Oklahoma. As of today, there are about 20,000 members of the Osage Nation, 7,000 of which reside within the tribe's jurisdictional area. The Osage Nation is bordered by the Cherokee Nation to the east, the Muscogee Nation and Pawnee Nation to the south, and the Kaw Nation to the west. Still further into Osage County, we next drop into Barnsdall, with a population of just about 1,000 people. Founded in 1905, the town was first named Bigheart in honor of the Osage chief James Bigheart. It was renamed to Barnsdall in 1922 in honor of Mr. Barnsdall, the owner of the Barnsdall Oil Company. On a continuous march east toward the edge of the state, we next find ourselves in the town of Foyil within Rogers County, with a population of about 350 people. Two things had drawn us to the town, the first of which was the statue in honor of Andrew Hartley Payne, who had won the 1928 Great Transcontinental Foot Race between LA and New York City. The second is Ed Galloway's Totem Park, which was constructed over the course of 26 years as a monument to the American Indian. Each of the 12 structures found on this site were constructed almost entirely by hand by Ed Galloway. The designs of each structure speak directly to the history of the land of Oklahoma, which was Indian Territory before it was established as a state in 1907. The largest of the totems rises from the back of an enormous turtle, carved from an outcrop of sandstone, evoking the indigenous term Turtle Island. In all, this massive concrete totem features over 200 hand-sculpted relief creatures and Native American portraits. The 90-foot-tall totem, which took 11 years to complete, contains 28 tons of cement, 6 tons of steel, and 100 tons of sand and rock. The sand used in the cement came from a creek bed running on the west side of the property, and most of the scrap metal and paint came from neighbors in the area, making this a truly community collaborative project. Through his work, it is easy to see the immense amount of respect he felt toward the Native American people. Sliding into Adair, near the northeast corner of the state, it is well past time that we begin making the finds needed to qualify in the remaining counties and pages for the state of Oklahoma. For some reason, pretty much everything we tracked down today was to be found near the edge of a fence line. Not that I minded, as this consistent hide style made it pretty easy to know where we were going to look for each geocache that we were searching for. Then we came across a rather fun and unique hide, hidden by Troop 167. Located in a straight line from the front doors of the nearby police department, it seems unlikely that this geocache is going to be at risk anytime soon. It is a simple placement that is not meant to challenge hiders, but rather to give them something fun to find along their travels. Hidden back in 2010, the troop is returned to include pictures of different activities that new members of the troop have done since then. I believe with the inclusion of these photos, this geocache will only age like fine wine, making it that much more of an interesting discovery 5 or 10 years down the road from now. Taking the road less traveled, we hop off Interstate 44 and travel down Highway 69 to reach the Cabin Creek battlefield. This is one of those places where you would have no idea the import it had on American history, save for the historical markers found here. The Cabin Creek battlefield was the site of 2 key engagements between Union and Confederate forces in Indian Territory during the Civil War. During the First Battle of Cabin Creek on July 1st and 2nd of 1863, Confederate forces under Colonel Stand Watie attempted to capture a Federal supply wagon train. Commanded by Colonel James William, the Federal troops, consisting of the 3rd Indian Home Guard, the 1st Kansas Colored Volunteer Infantry, and units from Colorado, Kansas, and Wisconsin, resisted the attack. Watie's troops fought hard up and down the ford in their attempt to capture the supply wagon train, but were eventually driven off by artillery fire, followed by infantry and cavalry charges against the Confederate troops. A rough 2 days of fighting.
Riddle me this. Why is it that this branch, which is attached to nothing, it's just free floating all by itself, why is it this is the only one here that has any growth on it?
Once you have hiked in about half a mile across the expanse of the battlefield, you will find yourself within a forested grove filled with monuments to the battles that took place here. Throughout the center of the grove, you will find a series of benches and tables scattered about to provide a place to sit and think about the men who fought and died on the lands here. Each of the markers helps to paint a picture of the various units who served here. This is where we learned about the Second Battle of Cabin Creek, which occurred on September 19th of 1864. Once again, an attempt was made to capture Federal supplies en route to Fort Gibson. This time, General Watie's attack against the Union forces was a success, capturing 130 wagons and marking the last major engagement in Indian Territory during the Civil War. Finally, we approached the end of our time in Oklahoma, coming into Miami in the very northeast corner of the state. All we need to be able to do to wrap this thing up now is just make a quick find or two. So that's exactly what we did. We picked out our last couple of targets for Oklahoma and made our way over for the easy finds.
Our very last find in Oklahoma, the last qualifier we need to complete both the DeLorme and the county challenges. And wouldn't you know it? It's one in the I See Dead People series, because of course it is. It is great that Team Gator OKC not only filled in a lot of the counties with these geocaches, but also adopted the county challenge. Great way to wrap things up here. Now, onward to Missouri.
During our time spent in Oklahoma, we have visited the corners where it comes up against Texas, Colorado, New Mexico, and Kansas. Now, before leaving the state in its entirety, it only seemed right to visit the tri-state marker at the corner of Missouri and Kansas too.
And look at that. Another state corner. This time we're at the tri-state marker, the intersection between Oklahoma, which we have just finished, Missouri, which we are going to pivot our way through, and Kansas, where we're heading next.
Our first sighting of civilization, coming into the southwest corner of Missouri, is the city of Joplin, with a population of about 50,000 people. We would not be spending long in Joplin, however. We stopped in to find a couple of quick caches to qualify in the county and page, and appreciated the murals before moving our way over to Webb City. Here we would visit the kneeling miner statue, the site of an earth cache and a virtual. Originally created in 1976, he was sculpted in concrete as part of Webb City's bicentennial celebration. It was rededicated in bronze in 2006 to serve as a reminder of the mining era and the work of the founding families.
All right, travelers, that is going to do it for our last day in Oklahoma. We have now completed all the counties and all the pages in the state. We began halfway through our route, still remaining from yesterday, in Pawhuska. And from there, it was basically a straight march east through Oklahoma throughout the day. It ended up being kind of a lot of country miles in that northeast corner of the state, but I was completely good with that. And of course, we still saw a lot of those I See Dead People geocaches as well. Those are really a blessing in some of the lonelier parts of the state. Once we made our way into Missouri, there were a few things that we were aiming to do here outside of Joplin, but the weather is not quite cooperating right now. It's been on and off rain, but more importantly, thunder and lightning, and that's not gonna work. So instead, we're gonna call it here in Webb City and get ready for tomorrow. And assuming the weather's gonna be better, looks like it will be, we'll take on those adventures first thing in the morning. Thank you guys for joining us today as we wrapped up the state of Oklahoma. We're looking forward to spending the next week touring the state of Missouri before we head on in our way to Kansas. Like this video, subscribe to stay tuned for daily updates, and we'll see you out on the trails.